Hey guys, Brent Hull, happy Wednesday. The design video, it's part 2 on this French-ish house we're working on. Really, we had to step back and kind of start over once I got the plans and kind of figured it out, because what they got from their original architect versus what we have ended up with are completely different. And I really needed to understand what they really wanted. She finally sent me some images that were really helpful. And so going back and forth, we kind of figured it out. So you're gonna see now part 2, a very different facade than the one we saw in the first one. And then of course we tried to work on the back. So sometimes the back sides of these things are really funky. So let me know what you think. Okay, so you remember this thing I drew for my last video, and I've gone a little farther into the consulting with this client, trying to help them figure this thing out. A few of you commented that well, I don't mind that, I don't mind that. Well, I'm gonna show you the rendering that comes from this and what happens. And the problem with AI today is it makes things look better than they really are. So I gave them this kind of rendering, right? Where I said, well, this is, I think, what you want. That was over there. I simplified the roof, you know, I've changed the garage and I did all that. And I was playing with a more of a cottage, early cottage inspiration, kind of a country house cottage kind of feel when I did this. And I even sent to this client a French inspiration PowerPoint, which copied a bunch of black and white photos of French houses. And what you'll notice when you look at these French houses, the simplicity of the roof line and just kind of the calm nature of this, whereas I said this was so busy. Well, then she sent me some pictures and showed me more traditional kind of French country house. And so I ended up giving her this design, and so showing them the simplicity where we've got larger windows on the bottom that are fairly even. Notice the symmetry here. But this is a very clear departure from this. And so this is the kind of, you know, stately, simple French designs with this rubble stone that they want. She wanted shutters, and so this design gives her shutters. This design, there's no room for shutters on this thing almost anywhere, and that was really one of her first request. And so this gives her shutters. This still gives the dramatic stair hall with the French windows design, graduated fenestration, right? Just much simpler, much cleaner. Well, then they said, well, let's do the other side and let's look at the other sides of the house. And so when you go around to the back side of the house, you see this, okay? Now, for all practical purposes, there's no way that this looks like, you know, that, right? That the French simplicity here, I mean, this is kind of a 70s deal here. They've gone from a hip to a gable end here, which is weird because they then do those bad gable end returns. And so, but they wanted some porches and they wanted some other stuff. And so what I did was I simplified this, you know, and kind of tried to remind us where we were. I went to the hip roof here instead of that gable end. I lowered these roofs. You can see them behind there where they were upper. And what that does with those windows is it punches the windows through the roof line with the little hipped dormer. And because they've got timber here, it's going to be weird to have, they said, we know this isn't necessarily very French, but we need this kind of window wall. And so I basically, you know, assumed that this little piece here is going to be kind of a timbered porch. So I've got an open air timbered porch out here, some doors that come off it, and there's their window wall. And by surrounding that with timber, we've kind of played around with it. I like the 2 small sides and the bigger one in the middle. This balcony, I've given them with it being held up with brackets as opposed to kind of looking like a modern apartment. Notice all the open lights here. And so you'll see that except for the big window here, I've divided all the lights out so that it looks a little bit different. I'm trying to tie it back to the main house, and we do that with materials, with windows, and with roof lines. The other thing that's crazy about the roof line, and you notice it here, remember I talked about all those ridges, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, just in this area. And notice that this roof line kicks out. And if we instead do this, where we create a little flat area up here, okay? We are capturing all these roofs, we're simplifying, we're putting a flat spot on top, which is historical, you don't see it from the ground, but by simplifying this roof and building up, I lose, you know, some of the busyness back here. For instance, this line right here goes away, and of course I've lowered these other ones here, but trying to unify this roof line that gets so busy that you saw when we looked at it this way, that we had all these ridge lines. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm building up this little flat area in here so that it just simplifies all these roofs, and all those little other ridge lines get simplified because I do that. So pulling this house together from the front to the back, and I think this is better. They do want a bunch of open lights going into their backyard, so I understand that. And so you don't have the same symmetry, but we've got this L coming out, which kind of breaks up that, the rhythm and the simplicity of the front of the house that's shown here, right? We don't have, because we've got, this addition, and this. So there's still your main body back here, but you're seeing all the appendages more on this side. And so the goal really is to try to start tying these things together so that they go in that French tradition, so they work with that French style. So let me know what you guys think. I think we've pulled it together a little bit better. I think we've helped it out, but it will be all in the details, like this porch and this balcony, right? Having this cantilevered porch with the iron railings, maybe that was just something that was dropped in there, but that's not going to really work on a traditional style house. We need a different balustrade. We need this held up with brackets, and it's really going to change the feel of it. But it's little things like this. Fix this, fix this. This is a timbered with a bracket, okay? Instead of just having timbers that go up and like this, and then sometimes you'll see this kind of nailed on bracket that sits out like this. What helps is by putting pegging here, okay, I'm implying that there is a mortise and tenon joint here, or here, right, that goes down, that this is being connected to. By doing the pegging, right, I'm implying that there's a tenon going up into here and that these are joined together. And by doing this, like this could be, just tacked on with a couple nails, whereas when you incorporate it so that it's part of the structure and part of the way this originally would have been built, if you chamfer edges like this becomes much more sexy than the tacked on. And so when we look at this original bracketing here, like there's no bracket that would ever have that kind of step down, right? Because this was a very functional piece. These brackets were very functional in order to keep the timber frame straight. So they weren't necessarily decorative. And so in that simplicity of this bracket and implying that it was mortise and tenon, it just becomes more real, and these details begin to look a little bit better. So let me know what you guys think. This is the new design we've come up with. I really like it. I think it's very traditional, and I think they'll be happy too. Okay guys, what did you think? The roof lines are crazy and hard. It affects the backside of the house, as you can see. And so really, to do a great house, you aren't just building on the front side. You really need to tie all those elements together. And there really are a lot of details that matter in that. Timber framing would be a good example of, actually introducing the pegging, introducing chamfering really does make a big difference. So let me know what you guys think. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.